These are my full card predictions for UFC Qatar this weekend. This is an early start, very earlier than usual, and that means we're going to be making some money earlier than usual. Now, last week we absolutely dominated UFC 322 with over 10 units profit on that card, which is absolutely insane. We had many high odds bets. Our free bet of the week of cast prices by KO won, and lots of other bets won inside the Discord. So if you want to access all of my bets, click the Discord link in bio and let's make some money. Now, let's get into the predictions. First fight of the night, we got the heavyweight Denzel Freeman versus Marak Beluho. And to be honest, there's just not much tape available on either of these guys. So I'm going to say Denzel Freeman can stuff the takedowns and get his striking going. But either way, it's a very hard fight to pick, and I'm definitely not betting on that fight. Next up, we got Nurullo Aliyev versus Shamrock this weekend, and I'm going to take Nurullo Aliyev to win by decision. Shamrock has pretty good submission ability, which he has shown on the regional scene. His striking, he likes to kick a lot, but he looks very green on the feet. His defense is questionable. And Nurullo Aliyev, he's a very typical Dagestani Russian kind of fighter. His striking is very mid. He looks pretty uncomfortable on the feet overall, but he has some boxing that he will throw, and his wrestling is pretty good. He will be relentless with the takedowns, and he has good control as well. He can control the fight from top position. He really doesn't offer too much threat on the feet or on the ground, with 8 out of his 10 victories coming by way of decision. So I think he can avoid the submission attempts of Rock here and continue to win by decision by controlling him over the 15 minutes of this fight. Next, we got Ismail Nurdiev versus Ryan Loder. And I'm going to take Nurdiev to win. I'm going to take him to win by TKO in this fight. Now, Ryan Loder is a pretty good grappler. He has a lot of American wrestling credentials. I think he was a D1 wrestler. And he did look good grappling-wise in that Robert Valentin performance. But his striking is very green, and it's pretty bad to me, to be honest. I watched one of his fights where he got dropped on the regional scene, and he ended up losing by a split decision. That wasn't too long ago. That was like 2 years ago against a pretty low-level guy. Then in his last fight, he got steamrolled by Azamat Bukoyev, and we just saw Bukoyev get dominated in his last fight, so that's not the best aging loss. His striking just looks very, very bad. He's very hittable on the feet, and he's pretty slow as well. But he does have good grappling, which he showed in that Robert Valentin fight. Ismail Nurdiev, in my opinion, isn't a great fighter either. I don't even know why he's in the UFC. If you look, he got cut, then he lost 2 out of his 3 fights, and they signed him again, which is pretty weird to me. His striking is technically not too bad. He has some decent boxing. His power's okay. His kick's okay, but he's just really nothing special on the feet. And in the grappling, he has shown to be able to get taken down before. His defense is alright. He can get up from the bottom, but he definitely has a weakness in his grappling defense. But I think in this fight, he's going to have a significant striking advantage over Ryan Loder, and I think he can stuff some of the takedowns of Loder and be able to have a lot of success on the feet here. So I'm going to pick Nurdiev to win. Pretty low confidence in that prediction. Now, this is one of the best fights on the night. A battle between 2 of the best prospects, Beskat Almahan versus Alexandre Topuria. I'm going to pick Beskat to get it done here against Alexandre Topuria. Now, Topuria is a lot like his younger brother, Ilya Topuria. He keeps that tight boxing guard, low stance, good wrestling, and he's very patient in timing his shots. He looked pretty good against Colby Thickness in his last fight, where he showed his wrestling, his boxing. He looked very sharp, but he was pretty low volume at times, and I would have liked to see him push the finish in that fight. I really thought he could have got Thickness out of there. And Beskat Almaksan, everyone says his wrestling is horrible, but if you actually look back at this guy's past fights, I think he's a pretty good wrestler. He can wrestle offensively. He can stuff takedowns. Just because he got mauled by Umar Nurmagomedov, in my opinion, that doesn't mean that Topuria is going to have some big wrestling advantage. And on the feet, this guy has very good power. He's extremely explosive when he puts into shots. He has good timing as well. So I think Beskat is going to be my pick here as the underdog. I do like Topuria's game, but I like the X factor with the power and the speed of Beskat here. And I think he can get an upset. I'm going to say that Topuria's defense is too good to get knocked out. So I think Beskat can win by decision. Next, We got Rafael Sakara versus Abdul Rahman Yakyaev. Abdul should win in round 1 by knockout or submission any way he wants. Rafael Sakara is just not UFC level. He's very hittable, he's very chinny, and he's very timid as a fighter. Once he gets hit, he usually just shells up and accepts getting finished. We've seen him get finished multiple times in the UFC, and in his last fight, he got flat out dominated by Julius Walker, and I did not know how he did not get finished. Abdul, I'm not even that high on him. He seems a bit green to me, especially on the feet, but he does have power and he can get takedowns and has a good submission game and ground and pound from on top. So I see him either knocking Sakara out on the feet or taking him down and finding a finish in round 1 either way. But I'm not going to bet on him. The odds are pretty crazy. He's like a minus 1,500 favorite in that fight. Nicholas Dalby versus Sagid Azakmuhav. Now I'm going to take Sagid to get it done against Nicholas Dalby. I think Nicholas Dalby's 41, coming off a brutal KO loss. It's just really hard to pick him here. Sagid trains in that Khabib gym. He's a decent striker, good grappler. To be honest, I didn't watch too much tape on this fight, but he is the younger guy. He should be better than the 41-year-old Nicholas Dalby in this fight. And I'm going to say he gets it done by a decision victory here. Next is Bogdan Grad versus Luke Riley. Now, Luke Riley is a prospect with a decent amount of hype. I do like his striking, and I like the way he can pressure his opponents and find flurries and has good speed when he lets his hand go and find TKOs by doing that. But he has been taken down, and in his last fight, he got controlled for about a full round before getting a TKO in the second round. But that was against a very low-level fighter. Now, Bogdan Grad is a very, very hittable fighter. We've seen him get hit repeatedly and even knocked out. But I do think Bogdan Grad is a dog. I like the wrestling that he does. He shoots takedowns no matter what. And in his last fight against Muhammad Naimov, who in my opinion is a pretty good fighter, he took him to a very close decision where a few fight IQ decisions, he could have been looking at getting the victory there. I think Bogdan Grad can actually get takedowns on Luke Riley, and I think he can have moments of controlling him. This is Luke Riley's debut, so he could have octagon jitters. And yeah, I think Bogdan Grad as a dog here, a pretty sizable underdog, plus 250, can get some takedowns on Luke Riley and be able to control him and win by a decision. So that's going to be my pick here. Luke Riley could absolutely knock out Bogdan Grad on the feet. He should have a significant striking advantage, and Grad is very hittable. But I do like Grad as an underdog to get the grappling going. As a pretty spicy take there for that match. Next, another one that I'm going to be taking the dog. I'm taking Alex Perez versus Asuyam Mobayev. And I know there are a lot of red flags when it comes to picking Alex Perez in this matchup. And a lot of green flags when picking Asuyam Mobayev. Mobayev has been way more active compared to Perez, who really hasn't fought that much in the past 5 years. Asu is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Alex Perez is 1-4 in his last 5 fights. But to be honest, Alex Perez, in his last couple of fights, he's been fighting high-level guys. In that Tatsuro Tara fight, I thought he was doing pretty well before he ended up getting injured/submitted in that fight. Then in that Muhammad Makayev fight, I thought he won that fight. He stuffed 17 out of 20 takedowns from Muhammad Makayev, who is a very high-level grappler, who in my opinion is like a better version of Asuyam Mobayev everywhere. And I thought he won that fight. He ended up losing a 29-28 decision. Then he knocked out Mateus Nicolau in that fight. So you can take some of those losses with a grain of salt. Now, Asuyam Mobayev is a guy that will shoot lots and lots of takedowns, and we have seen Perez struggle with takedowns before. But Asuyam Mobayev on the feet, he's technically sound, but in my opinion, when he gets pressured back, he looks a bit lost and very timid and scared almost at times. We saw that in the Manel Kapp fight. He did get eye poked, but he was just running away when Kapp would let his hands go. And even just in his last fight against Jose Choya, when he's getting pressured back and his opponent is letting his boxing combinations go, he can be in trouble when he's not consistently able to get those takedowns. And do I think he'll be able to consistently take down Alex Perez? I don't think so. I think Perez's takedown defense is pretty solid. I think he can stuff enough takedowns to at least make this fight close. And I think he definitely has the striking advantage on the feet and in the boxing. So I'm going to take Perez as an underdog to stuff enough takedowns here. He will get taken down, but I see him get back up and land the better shots on the feet to win by a 29-28 decision as another underdog. Now moving on to the main card, this is where my confidence starts to get a lot higher. Tagir Ulanbekov versus Horiguchi. I'm going to pick Tagir Ulanbekov to win by decision. I think Horiguchi He's a good fighter. He moves around well on the back foot. He's pretty low volume on the feet. He blitzes in with boxing. He throws his leg kicks and he has wrestling himself. But I think he is much older in this fight. And I think even as a flyweight, he's pretty small. And Tigir will have a big size advantage here. I think Tigir on the feet, he's pretty basic. He sticks to his 1-2s, his simple kicks, teep kicks. But I'd like his striking for what it is. And he utilizes it well with his grappling. I think his takedowns from the body lock are very strong, and he has good control. On top, he is a decent submission threat as well. I think he'll be able to take Horiguchi down with his size and his length, and I see him controlling him for periods of time, and I can see him also doing alright on the feet here. So I just think he's going to get the takedowns, control Horiguchi, and win by a decision like Tigir usually does. Now, moving on to the next one, Shamil Gaziev versus Sergey Spivak. I think Sergey Spivak gets it done by decision in this fight. Now, Sergey Spivak opened up as a plus 150 underdog, which kind of shocked me. I do not know what Shamil Gaziev has done to deserve to be a favorite over Sergey Spivak, but I understand that Shamil Gaziev is much bigger and he should have more power, and also we have seen Sergey Spivak quit in fights before. But beyond that, I think Sergey Spivak is just the better fighter in this fight. I think on the feet, as far as power goes, sure, Shamil should have the advantage. But in speed, I think Sergey Spivak is underratedly quick as an heavyweight. And even in his last fight, he lost to Waldo Cortez Acosta. A very close fight. I rate Waldo pretty highly, and he was in there pressuring Waldo, landing boxing shots, throwing up some kicks, which looked pretty good. I don't think Shamil Gaziev has that much success against Waldo Cortez Acosta. And also, as far as the grappling goes, I think Sergey Spivak is definitely a way better grappler. We've seen Sergey Spivak take down Jailton Almeida, submit guys like Derek Lewis, Marcin Tybura, and I think he can take down Shamil, and I think he could potentially have success controlling or damaging Shamil. Maybe he can even pull off a submission, but I don't think it's very reliable that Sergey can consistently take down Shamil, especially as the fight goes on. Sergey's heart and his quitting ability does worry me quite a bit in this fight. We've seen it time and time again. When the going gets tough, he does look for a way out and give up. But I think he's the faster striker. I think he's the better grappler, and I think he should be the better fighter in my opinion. He's also much younger, so I will take Sergey Spivak as an underdog here. Let's see if he can pull through. Now on to the next one, Jackamanson versus Maltabek Orobai. This is a very random fight. They usually fight in 2 weight classes apart. Maltabek Orobai is normally a lightweight and Jackamanson is a middleweight. I'm going to take Maltabek Orobai in this fight. Both these guys are good grapplers, so I kind of expect it to cancel out, but I don't really have much tape to go off that to suggest that either one of them will have an advantage in any particular area of this fight, just because they've been fighting such different opponents at different weight classes. But at the end of the day, Jackamanson is 37. He's coming off a brutal knockout loss, and he's moving down to welterweight. Jackamanson isn't a small middleweight, so this big weight cut after coming off a knockout loss and at his age, I don't really like that. I think Orobai is the younger fighter. He's 10 years younger. He's 27 years old. I think even in the skill sets, he might be the superior wrestler and striker. And I just think Orobai, due to the age and just being the younger, hungrier fighter, way less wear and tear, should be more durable. I think he gets it done here, most likely by a decision, but maybe if Jackamanson's durability really takes a hit, he could find a finish. I'm not even that confident on that pick, but that's what I'm going to go with. The logical pick, in my opinion, is Orobai in that fight. Now, for my free bet of the week and lock of the week, Volkan Oezdemir to get it done against Alonzo Menifield. I think this fight is super simple to break down. Alonzo Menifield and Volkan Oezdemir are very similar fighters. They're both primarily boxers who will throw some leg kicks, decent takedown defense, and will mix in the grappling against opponents that they think they have a grappling advantage over. But they are pretty much primary boxers who like to land the power shots in the pocket. And I just think Volkan Oezdemir is a way better fighter than Alonzo Menifield. In Alonzo Menifield's last fight against Omar Sy, he was able to cash as a big underdog, which was pretty impressive. But Omar Sy is just not that good, man. And even then, Omar Sy was really in that fight. And in his fight before that, Julius Walker, that was an absolute slugfest. And Julius Walker, we just saw him go the full 15 against Rafael Sequeira. That was an extremely sloppy fight. Both guys were super gassed at, getting hit really clean, and you just don't really see that with Volkan Oezdemir. Volkan Oezdemir, yeah, he's a very basic fighter, but he's been at the top of the division for a very long time, fighting the best fighters in this division, and he's been able to beat some of them. He's been able to beat guys like Rakic, Johnny Walker, even guys like Voracek and Bogdan Guskov. Like, he can win these fights, and the guys that he's losing to, it's guys like Yuri Prohaska, Magomed Ankalaev, a decision against Carlos Ulberg. These aren't bad losses at all. I think Volkan Oezdemir is faster. I think he's more powerful. I think he's just a way better striker. And as far as the grappling goes, maybe Alonzo Menifield will shoot some takedowns, but I don't see him taking down Volkan Oezdemir, and definitely not keeping him there. I think Volkan Oezdemir can find a KO here, and I think that's a lock as Volkan Oezdemir to win by KO or points. That is an absolute lock for this fight and on this card. And I think the price tag at -200, -250 range on Volkan Oezdemir is more than fair and one of the better betting opportunities of this card. Now, moving on to the co-main event, Belal Muhammad versus Ian Gary. I'm going to pick Ian Gary by decision, but I will say that the value is on Belal Muhammad. Right now, Belal Muhammad to win by decision is at +350 compared to Ian Gary to win by decision, who's at -120. And I think that, yeah, Ian Gary has shown a lot of promise. He's a great striker. As far as the striking goes, it's night and day here. Ian Gary will easily outstrike Belal Muhammad. He'll land the kicks, land the punches. He's much faster, way better distance management. But I don't know where this like sense that Ian Gary is some insane anti-grappler. Like, he's been able to use his grappling offensively in his fights, and that's looked good, and his BJJ has looked good. But even in that Shavkat fight, Shavkat was able to take him down, control him for periods in that fight. And Shavkat, in my opinion, is not as good as a wrestler as Belal Muhammad. In that MVP fight, he showed his offensive grappling, but he gave up bottom position as well. Even in his last fight against Carlos Prates, he gave up bottom position multiple times in that fight. So while I do think Ian Gary is much younger, he's probably more durable at this point in his career, and he's definitely the hungrier fighter who has more to prove and is in better shape in his career. Belal Muhammad is 37 years old, and he is coming off a fight where he took a lot of damage. If Belal can get some takedowns going here, he definitely can have some success in this fight and potentially win by decision. I think this fight goes a distance. I think it's going to be competitive, but I do think Ian Gary gets it done here. But yeah, I do think Belal Muhammad as this big of an underdog is surprising to me, and I think he is being slightly disrespected by the odds makers. But who knows, maybe Ian Gary comes out there, schools him, maybe even finds a finish. Who knows? But that's going to be my pick here, Ian Gary by a very close decision. Now for the main event, Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker. Arman Tsarukyan gets it done by a late TKO ground and pound stoppage via elbows in this fight. That's what I'm going to call here. Looking into this fight, I saw Dan Hooker was a +400 underdog. I was kind of surprised because he done pretty well against Gamrot. After watching the tape, I now know why. I think this is one of the easiest matchups for Arman Tsarukyan in the division. Arman loves a taller, rangier guy who he can take down easier and who he can hold down on the ground and land his big ground and pound shots. Against Charles Oliveira, Joel Alvarez, guys of similar frames, he's been able to get the takedowns pretty easy and land some brutal ground and pound. And now Dan Hooker, in his last fight against Gamrot, he did look good in terms of his takedown defense and his scrambling ability. I'll definitely give him that. But on the feet, he was in a war with Gamrot, where Gamrot was hitting him clean and outstriking him at moments, which is just not a good look here. So I think Arman Tsarukyan, he might struggle to get some of the takedowns, but I do think he does take him down, and I think he's a better control wrestler than Gamrot, and I definitely think he has much better ground and pound than Gamrot. I think he has some of the most brutal ground and pound in the sport. I see him taking down Hooker, holding him down, landing big elbows from on top, and I see him doing that each round pretty consistently. And even in the striking, I think Arman can have a lot of success, and dare I say, he might even outstrike Dan Hooker, especially if he gets a takedown threat. So Arman Tsarukyan, as the younger fighter here, I know he's been very inactive, but he's been staying fit with those grappling competitions. So we might see his grappling look really good, and potentially he could even find a submission. And Dan Hooker hasn't fought in over a year as well, so I see that cancelling out. And Hooker is the one coming off an injury. So I think Tsarukyan is younger, hungrier. He's the one that's not coming off an injury. He's a better wrestler. improving striking. I think he gets it done very dominantly, and I think he finds a finish in this fight. Now, if you want all of my bets, click that Discord link in bio or comment Discord, and let's make you some money. Let's go.